Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live from the View. This is the Community Arts of Bellevue's uh, online streaming programming that was created last year, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But Happy New Year! This is the first um, that
Yay.
we've done after the new year, and we certainly hope that you and your family had a wonderful holiday season. We know it was a different one, but we hope it was still a very, very good one. So, um, 2021 is right off and going. Last spring, the Community Arts of Bellevue, which is a not for profit arts organization in Bellevue, um, launched Live from the View as a signature piece of programming in response to what was going on at the time, which was COVID. People had to stay in their homes, they couldn't mingle with folks, they couldn't congregate with folks, but we knew that they needed to still interact. And they also needed to know that art was going to continue to happen. And so we launched our first one on April 8th. And board member of Community Arts of Bellevue, artiste extraordinaire Lisa Jennings, actually launched the series.
Woo!
And she did a studio tour. We got over, I think Lisa has garnered the most views of over 6,000. And that's when we stopped counting. I bet there's more than that. But we've been working diligently to continue this. We've had it going nonstop, except for the holiday break. And tonight, Lisa is here. We were able to pull her away from her gorgeous art as an exhausted woman in art because she's just completed creating a show that is going to be um, in Clarksville at the Customs uh, House Museum and Cultural Center in Clarksville from January 27th through April 18th. And it's a show called Coming Home. And so we're going to get a sneak preview with Lisa about this and get to see some of the pieces that are in there and really what motivates her as an artist and who and what she is. And the more I've gotten to know Lisa, I feel like uh, uh, she's got to be Mother Nature's sister or certainly first cousin. She's just amazing. So Lisa Jennings, hi
Hey
girl,
there.
how are you?
Hello.
So good to see you. Happy New Year.
Hi. Happy New Year to you and to everyone out there. And isn't it ironic? Here I am, the first person this year, as I was the first person last year.
Yeah, I think that means a trophy of some sort. We'll work on that. I'll talk to Glenn Biggs, our president, to see if we
I
can.
know, I know what I want. It
I know
starts with a W.
a W, not Winnebago, right?
And it has nothing to do with art supplies.
Is it red or is it white? Or both?
We'll just let everybody ponder that.
No. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that this has been a very busy time for you as you've collected
Yeah.
and gathered all of this art that you've just created for this amazing show. And I love the fact that you incorporate, you as an artist are involved in multimedia. You're not just a single focused artist in terms of the tools that you use, the pieces that you use, and what you work with to create it. But you've also got this amazing tie to nature. It's like
Mhm.
nature is embedded in you as one. And that we see that not only in the content of your art, but also in your approach as well as the things that you use to create your art. So rather than me describing it, tell us what is, describe your art and your approach to it. What do you, talk to us about that?
Okay. Um, so my approach to art has been with me since I was a wee little child, growing up because I grew up in a family of five children, four boys and one of me. And so we spent a lot of our childhood outdoors. We would get up at in the morning and we would get on our bike and ride to the nearest creek or field, or we'd ride down to the swimming pool together. And, our parents would ring the bell for when it was time for us to come back in the evening for dinner. So it was just one of those sweet childhoods where I grew up outdoors, and that was my playground. And I would love being outside all day. My mom had a lot to do with that because she was an artist herself, and she taught us so many things about being outdoors and how to enjoy it. She taught us how to find rocks. We hunted for different kinds of stones, semi-precious and fossils. And it didn't matter where we moved in the United States, my mom would find out what kind of stone was to be found around there. My mom loved she loved sculpting like I do, but she sculpted in clay. So we would go down to the creek. There was a creek that we would go to, and we would collect this beautiful blue-gray clay for my mom. And so it's an honor for me to know that I've been an artist since I was a little girl, and that my heart, my soul belongs outside, and that's how I create. And that's also like my church too. It's like, um, I just feel so in sync when I'm outdoors.
So,
And yeah,
so Lisa, your mom was also an artist.
yes, yeah.
Did she incorporate aspects of nature within her art as well?
Yeah, my mom loved to paint when we were growing up. And so, of course, and then I just mentioned that she used clay,
Right.
and she would sculpt with the clay, and she would teach us how to make, pinch pots and things. But mom would help us create things from nature. So if I was part of a Girl Scout troop, the craft of the month would be, we would go out and find these fungus on trees that are kind of shelf shaped or shell shaped, and we would um, get like a little marker or something, and you could actually make scenes on this fungus. And or we would get um, different kinds of holly or greens and put them in handmade candles. Mom was not as experimental as me. She wasn't able to sculpt with the natural found objects like I did, but she very much was interested in the same things as me. Her college papers that I found years and years later were all up from these beautiful color Life magazines that were all about Aboriginal cultures. And these cultures are the things that I love to study. I did not know that my mom and I had this similar thread of interest until I looked at all these. It was a huge stack of Life magazines, and it was on Aboriginal cultures from all over the world. And she studied their sculpture, their spiritual beliefs, their art, how they related their art and their spiritual beliefs, and how they lived so close to the earth. And so it just kind of, I guess it just was handed down to me in the example that she set and the way that she, loved and leaned towards different things.
Well, it sounds like she was kind of this is not a term, but an anthropologist artist.
Yep. And that's kind of what I wanted to be as a little girl. If I wasn't an artist, I would have chosen to be an anthropologist or a paleontologist,
Wow.
because I'm just fascinated um, with history, with any kind of artifacts. I love to hunt for things, whether it's fossils, arrowheads, or it's there. So mom had that in her, and I guess it just poured down into me too. And out of the 5 kids, I'm the only one that's really um, done this and carried on that. My younger brother and I love to go hunt. We hunt for stones together.
Mm.
So I can't say that I'm the only one.
But you're the only artist in the family
Ye-
outside of mother.
Yeah, and everybody in our family, I feel like every person in our family is capable of creativity. They just didn't choose it as an outlet. And then what's really fun is like some of my nieces and nephew that live in Minnesota. I see they're on here on the comments here, and they love to do art. So when they come to visit me, we have art days in my studio. And then my nephew Andrew, um, who I just love and cherish dearly, loves he wants to actually study with me, and we've done some really intense creative processes together. So, and if you're Andrew, if you're listening, I hope you come down and visit me soon because I miss you.
Oh. So Lisa, your mom gave you this wonderful foundation for not only art but also studying of nature and of various peoples and how they interact with Earth and their environment. Uh,
Yeah,
and so, of course, that resonated with you.
yeah,
That's going to come out in your art. So tell me, when you are, this is the chicken and egg question. So are you inspired to and create a vision of something that you want to create, and then you go out into nature and try to find the pieces to help make that art piece, and then you bring it to life? Or is it the opposite? You're outside looking at things, you find something that you come across, and all of a sudden you see what it can be, and you create your vision there? Or do you just gather stuff up when you're out? That's interesting, interesting, interesting. Take it home. You got a pile of interesting stuff, and I know you've got some of that stuff. But
oh yeah.
what's the chicken here? Where do you start?
I think it's all of the above, and
Oh, that's
yeah,
good. All right.
and and so there's times when I've just gone and collected different stones and different pieces of wood that just have the most unique shape to them. And I bring them home and I'll tuck them away for years. And then later something comes to mind where I want to um, use that shape or that form in a piece of sculpture. And so it's a conversation with God, with me as a catalyst. It never ends, it never stops, it's infinite. And that's the beauty of how I see things. It's how I see things and feel things in nature. If I'm led to pick it up and take it home, I put it in a safe place, um, and it's there. And I'll go through, like when I'm working on a piece of sculpture or something, and I want it to be holding something, or I want an adornment. I have, quite a few stones that I've picked up, or shells, or I've even used bone that I've found. Just lots of unique pieces. So you're trying to get me to the answer of like, does it start here or does it start over there?
A circle.
It's circular. It's always ongoing, and I think sometimes that's unnerving, and other times it's so relaxing. You know?
Well, in the visit, I visited Lisa's studio a couple of weeks ago, and um, can say that if I had an empty house with furniture that needed art, I could completely satisfy my artistic needs with the art from your studio. It's just gorgeous, and and it's not all the same. So it's what
Yeah.
you can see that there's Lisa in every bit of it. And I saw that you
Hmm.
had a lot of pieces that you had pulled from outdoors because you could see character in them. You could see possibilities with them, uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
or something just interesting so that you could have it for later when a vision might come to you.
Yeah, let me go get a. I'll grab a piece and I'll share it with you. Hold on, it's right here.
Lisa's studio is filled with stones, bark, trees, um, twigs, um, all different kinds of things that she has accumulated from. It could be beyond Nashville's area, but you can see that she got a really good eye for being maybe even a co-creator. Um, it's she's just done a great job in collecting a few things to have in her stash. So what do you got there, Lisa?
This is so cool. I don't.
Woo!
Can you guys see this? It is. It is a fungus, but it's the whole flower, and you don't normally find them in full circle like this. So this piece of fungus is actually going to go on the top of a sculpture, and it's going to be like a Sunday go to meeting hat. Check it out.
Oh, that's I think that's called a fascinator. Isn't that a fascinator? I bet you could sell those in Great Britain.
So, and then I'll even put like in the middle here, I've got this little area built up, and I'm going to put Indian money as like the little, little facets, you know, the little buds, the tiny little inner circle of the flower. Forgive me if I don't know the correct language. And yes, I think this is a turkey tail, Doris, a turkey tail fungus. And then I have beautiful wasp. This is a wasp nest, but it's the paper, the color of the paper is just gorgeous. And so this has been saved for a number of years, and I can use this, just tear it off in small bits, and it will go on a piece of sculpture or canvas with matte medium. And, you
Wow.
know, here I am saving a wasp nest.
We might need to get you a bigger studio.
I would love that someday.
Well, Lisa, we've talked a little bit, certainly about what inspires you, and we've talked a little bit about your mom, but and I know that she's inspired you and perhaps been what you might call a mentor. But I know that there have been other mentors in your life, people who have influenced you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those I know you've got some, you've had some good folk with you.
I've had some incredible people, and you know, my beloved, my sweet Anton, Anton Weiss, my spouse of partner in crime for 23 years. He passed away in 2019, so it's been quite the journey, and he and I were simpatico when it came to the things that we loved. He brought so many things out in me that I just needed. He said, "You just need a little push. You just need a little guidance," because he said, "You've got this relationship with spirit, with nature already." And he was the one. Anton was the one that um, saw that I was capable of sculpting. And we would go out on the streams and rivers near where we lived. We lived in Fairview, and then we lived in Leapers Fork together. And in Leaper's Fork, our home was right on the Natchez Trace, and we would just go out our door and down to the stream and hunt for all kinds of incredible stuff together. And I just remember him so many times showing me different stones and rocks and explaining how the planes of sculpture work together. So it was, I mean, his way of seeing, feeling, I was instilled in me, and it was there from when I was a little girl. So it was just, we really fed off of one another, and the synergy and the energy that we shared. We worked together, we lived together, we loved together. And it was a really great time. And, you know, I miss him with all my heart, but he was definitely, you know, my main mentor. I felt like I had a PhD without having to go to a full college program, because I learned multiple mediums from him. I learned how to sculpt in stone, in wood. I learned how to use metal and add metal additives by welding and brazing copper and brass and bronze together. And we worked on projects. We even we created a sculptural base that's in the Civil Rights Museum for the peace flame that was flown over from The Hague. And that's a permanent installation in the Civil Rights Museum. We worked on that sculptural base together. It was beautiful, and it's still there. He taught me how to work in all the mixed media, the mediums that I use. And it's such an important foundation to understand the technical aspects of how things interact with one another. Another thing that it was very important to my learning was understanding how to mix color. You know, when I went into the painting aspect of using my papers and pigmenting my papers, and then actually just creating paintings along with the paper mixed in. When I first started creating, art for a living, I had to learn how to mix color, and that's so important. And that's a part of the learning, I think, that so many people, different artists, miss out on, because they just squirt the paint out on the palette and use it straight. And the nuance and the refinement that you can create in a finished piece of art comes from understanding color, light and shadow. He taught me how to work with abstraction. And I work with abstraction. People might not see it, but I work with abstraction daily with my pigmented papers, because I create chaos when I'm creating my pigmented papers, and then I have to tear them and formulate a way to put them on the canvas that makes them look like something. So there's a lot of thought process that goes into creating paintings.
And I think
I'm
we've got some pictures. Sorry to interrupt. I think we've got some slides. Matt's standing by. Matt, can you
sure.
show us the first slide that we pulled together? And
Hmm.
Lisa, who is that
That's
woman?
that's my mom.
And you
That's
in
my
her.
This is my mom in East Aurora, New York. And I picked this photo of her because she's wearing, she has this, plain like raincoat on, but underneath that raincoat is this like green pantsuit. That like limey green that was in the 70s. That was my mom's favorite go-to outfit. And
And
it
you're
was in,
for that.
yeah. And she wore these like glasses too that were cat cat eye glasses. So
Yeah.
that pantsuit, that's why I picked that photo of my mom. Um, it was those were good times in East Aurora, New York. That's where my family's from. My ancestry is from New York State, from Olean and Portville, New York.
Right. Matt, show us the next one that she's pulled up. Talk about
Oh,
that little
okay.
here.
This is mine and Anton's show that we had at Bennett Galleries, and I'm not sure what year that. I'm not sure. Early 2000s, but you can see how our work played off of one another. There was a palette and an organicness in which how they would go together, and you could you could walk in and you could see a painting of his and a painting of mine, or a sculpture of mine and a sculpture of his, or a painting of his in the same house, because people resonated to both.
Mm.
And
They one another.
yeah, yeah, it was that was a really, and that's sculpture. I remember that sculpture is called Indigo, and it's got stone and metal in it. And then that was kind of like the beginning of where I started using my own pigmented papers. And then Anton's work was such a beautiful representation of non-objective, which is complete abstraction. And he always had this um, strong masculine look to his work. And then I brought the opposite, was truly feminine.
Oh, there he is. There
Oh, there we
you
go.
are. Ah, the dynamic duo.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that was a sweet photo shoot. They have a scout guide, and I don't know if people are familiar with the Scout Guide, but the Scout Guide is produced. It's a publication that's produced in major cities throughout the United States, and it's for people that move into the community that want special resources. And so the Scout Guide would show architects, people that deal in rugs, interior designers, artists, and we were able to be part of the Scout Guide for 2 years in a row. And we'd gather up some of our art things, and we'd have to drive at breakneck speed that day to get to this barn out in Leaper's Fork, and we'd work on this photo shoot to show off um, the capabilities of what we both did. And Anton's metal pieces are there. Both of those are metal pieces. And then I have my wood and stone sculpture along with one of my paintings.
mm,
Such a fun shoot.
nice. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
really.
Show us the next one. There now that's loving. Sweet.
That was pretty
Uh,
much us.
uh,
Yep,
now is that
yep.
in your current studio where you work from now?
No, that's out in Leaper's Fork, and
Oh,
that was in Anton's area where he would work on some of his sculpture and paintings. And I think that was taken in the early 2000s based on just the artwork that's there. Um, we had an exterior building that was 1,000 square feet, and then we had a 3-car garage that we had turned into a studio. So we both had a place to work, which was the bomb, and it was right out there in nature, and just
beautiful.
a great setup. And of course, another thing about Anton, you can see there's a TV in there. There's a TV.
Yeah.
I would walk in, and he was the kind of artist that would have background noise, not like soothing or orchestral music or new age, he would have Bob Barker, The Price is
Oh,
Right.
yes. Come on down.
He would just have some kind of TV show on, not paying any attention. He just wanted the background noise.
Sweet. Let's go to the next one.
Oh, these are pieces of my mom's ceramics. These are things that she made from the clay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and she did those when she was in college at Alfred State University. She was a textile and ceramics designer major.
Great. Those are beautiful. And that one?
Oh, this piece of sculpture is called Sanctuary, and it's a part of a tree. You know how it's the whole part of the tree, but kind of turned on its side and sliced.
Okay.
And then the piece of stone, it's one piece of stone that's her body, but it's from Arkansas. And Anton and I used to go to Arkansas to rock hunt together. And we would take my nieces and nephew or his daughter. And so we got her body is Tennessee stone, and it has crystals in her little chest.
Ah,
Yeah, and then her head is sculpted in another piece of Arkansas stone, and her body actually has like stripes or striads of quartz. The quartz along with the sandstone, so it's just a beautiful type of stone, and it just lent the shape of the stone just lent itself for a perfect kneeling body.
it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you and Mother Nature are attached at the hip. What beautiful. So, do you feel like it's part of your job to interpret nature or to celebrate nature or elevate it in some way or all of the above and more or none of it?
I don't, yeah. I just know this is pretty much what I feel like I've been called to do since I was a little girl. I knew that I wanted to be an artist, and this is the easiest thing for me to to explain or to share with people. It's the easiest thing, and it's the thing that I love the most. And it's so beautiful, and it's like I'll never be as good as God is, I'll never be that master like Mother Nature is. But boy, is it fun trying to replicate and um, take on a new theme or create something that represents what I've seen. And so when I was out in the woods with my dear friend Ella the other day, we went off the trail. We were so naughty. We were supposed to be on the trail, and we went just off the trail into the woods. And it's like I see things. I see the line of the vine coming down, and then it was like there's 7 trees that come up, and it looks like a throne, like somebody could just sit right in the crotch of that tree. But just think, these lines that are coming up, there could be a sculpture or something just placed in there, and it would be the most beautiful setting for something like that. And so it's like my dream to have an exhibit someday where I've got these sculptures that are just in these natural surroundings with these vines coming up around them.
That's gorgeous.
Oh, and here's this piece. This was one of my first sculptures that I ever created from found stone. Anton and I would go out in the rivers and streams, and we would find this beautiful sandstone. It had all these fossils of shells in the stone, and we would find these beautiful shapes, and they kind of had been tumbled by the river. And this is how he taught me how to sculpt, is just to feel the stone, look at the stone and see the shapes, and bring some of the natural forms out. And even like that dark area on the front of the stone was left, that was the natural color of the stone.
Mm.
And then the inset part is a piece of granite stone that I found somewhere else for the little heart. And then the actual back of the sculpture has 3 stones inset in it too.
Oh.
So, I just felt so nurtured being taught how to work with these things that I've loved since a little girl. And I'll be doing more sculpture this year. That's something that's really calling to me. I haven't been able to sculpt for a number of years because of the caregiving that I was doing with Anton later in his life.
Well, that's a beautiful piece.
Mm.
I think now we're getting ready to talk about your beautiful new show called Coming Home. And we're
Yeah.
going to show some
Yep.
pieces of that. And Matt's thrown up the first one. But before we get into what that piece is all about, why don't you share with our viewers what coming home means to you? Because I know you've put a lot of thought into it, and what you've shared with me it just makes perfect sense along your journey. So talk about it. Coming home, what does that mean?
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen, for asking me that, because I really have been on a journey, just like so many of us have been. And I touched on it just a minute ago. I spent pretty much the last 12 to 15 years focusing on the care of my elderly parents. And then Anton, my beloved, he ended up getting a diagnosis for Alzheimer's when he in 2012 into 13, and it just kind of shifted from us being this incredible artistic couple together to me really having to take charge and be a full-time caregiver. And so coming home, to me, it feels like I'm taking this big, deep breath in, just breathing in this sigh of relief, and feeling good. I'm at this very peaceful but also very new place in my life, because I've always given. I was always there for my parents, always there for my siblings, always there for my beloved. And now I'm truly coming home to myself. And as an artist, to have this sacred time, whatever time I have left in this world, is focused on the gifts, that I've been given with my artistic talent. I don't know what that looks like. I have a feeling, I'm in this big place of wonder, and I'm really coming home to myself, getting to know who I am, who Lisa is, just as a basic person. And then as an artist, what am I supposed to do to express myself as an artist? What are the gifts that I can give back to community? What are the gifts that I can give myself and share with others? And the big thing is how am I supposed to make a living? Because
there's that too.
Yeah, it's a huge facet of it.
Well, I would think this is a wholesale remark that successful artists and those who really love what they do have to be reflective,
Mm-hmm.
have to be
Mm-hmm.
thoughtful and inspired, and they do inspire others. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we all have to do that for our own personal lives. And it sounds like some of the reflection that you've learned and done through your life
Yeah.
with your art, you've also done it with your family and the people around you. And
Mm-hmm.
now you get to focus on yourself. And it's well earned, Lisa. It's well. So,
I pray so. Thanks.
so talk
Thanks.
about this particular piece. What's the name of it? And tell us about it.
Okay. So with with coming home, the show for the museum is called Coming Home, and so I gathered up different ideas and themes about what is it like to come home. I'm coming home, but it's also about the memories that I shared and the people that I've loved as part of my journey. So coming home is not only just a celebration of myself, but it's the things that have made me who I am. And so I did quite a few different themes of artwork for this museum show to show the breadth and depth of how my talent can be expressed. And this piece right here is part of my totem series, and it's 12 inches wide and 70 inches long and about 2.5 inches deep. It's a memory of the time that I spent out on the rivers and streams and in the woods with Anton. And it was a real stretch for me with these vertical totems to actually articulate a story for things to read. So how can you enter the actual painting or piece of artwork and have your eye travel up or down? So they were quite a challenge to me, but I hope that they resonate with people and that they'll enjoy them. And I believe this one's called Memory and Connection or something like that, because it's the memories of being out in nature with Anton.
Oh, beautiful. Let's see the next one, Matt. Okay.
Okay, so
Great.
this is another one. It's part of the totem series, and these are smaller, and these are 6 inches wide and 48 inches long. And it's called Raven Companion. And as many people will see or have seen that have followed me, my work has birds in it everywhere. And so the birds that I love are always in my paintings. They're part of my story, they're a part of my life. I've loved birds ever since I was a little girl, too. So yet another piece of artwork with a bird in it.
Bird woman.
Yeah,
And we're going to talk about birds in another way
yeah,
as they're tied to this exhibit. Okay.
yeah.
There's another bird. Tell us about this guy.
Okay, so this is one of the bigger totems, and I'm not sure of the name. Is it Rivers and Streams or Wood Wandering the Woods or something like that? Forgive me, I don't memorize all the titles. I just remember working on the pieces, and I love the color palette in this one. And this is another. It's a 12-inch wide by 70-inch long, and it was just fun to tell the story in this piece. It actually has actual petals of flowers in it and batik resist, and yes, another bird flying through it.
Is it on canvas?
No, the panel or the totem pieces are actually on custom panels that I had made. So they're on birchwood panels.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
very nice.
beautiful. Okay. And the next one. Okay, now we're getting
Oh,
to the mandalas here.
yeah.
Mandalas.
Um,
So, talk about this. This is a you had an extremely elongated format for the totems. Now you're going to
mhm.
something completely different. How did you get to this? Beautiful
So the mandala, the people pronounce the name. I call them mandalas.
mandalas.
People pronounce them all different ways. The mandalas are a sacred form of meditation in some religious beliefs or artistic ways of creating. And so I came to these mandalas. I've always wanted to create something circular, and so I think there's a total of 16 of these circular pieces, and they're as small as 20 inches and they're as big as 3 foot across. And they're just an expression of my love for nature, and also to show people the amount of work that I can do or the stretch that I can take my papers in any direction, whether it's printing, batik resist, or just color pigmented paper. So um, also the thought behind the circular pieces with the rectangular totem pieces were, this is a museum show. It's not going in a gallery. It's a museum show. So I wanted something that was going to be visually fun for people to look at, that would take them in instead of just a rectangular painting, you know? So there was the idea behind the mandalas.
And you have these in various sizes.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
what are they painted on?
These are actually stretched canvas, so they're considered a painting. Yeah,
Beautiful.
they're 20 inches all the way up to 3 feet across.
Let's see the next one, Matt.
Ooh, yeah.
Beautiful.
That's more batik resist, and I just loved playing with all the color. I have a beautiful apprentice. Her name's Regina, and this apprentice has worked with me for going on 5 years now, and she really understands my aesthetic. So she's been such a right hand man with me throughout this process, because we would confer on color palettes and design and everything, but I actually had the last say as to, we need to go darker. I want them this thin. I mean, it's actually all my design, but she was like my right hand person. So it's such an asset to have a helping hand in the studio when you're going through this kind of process.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Matt,
thank
you
you.
wanted us to see the next one. Let's see it. Oh
Sure.
God,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
And
I love that color.
the deep, rich rust along with the gray, and it kind of reflects the whole, this, all the different studies that I've done of Aboriginal culture and mark making, and it's got rhythm. It just kind of brings everything in that I've ever wanted to put into a piece of artwork. It was a lot of fun.
Gorgeous. Let's go to the next one. That's pretty. Oh,
Yeah.
colors are so soothing.
Yeah, the mandalas are kind of meant to be a meditative piece for people to really rest their eyes on and go into, and they are used for healing in some ways. So I took many years of expressive arts. I studied color and vibrational healing, and then I studied expressive arts with um, movement and sound and art making and mark making. And so um, of course I would sneak some kind of healing in.
I think
Yeah.
whether you realize it or not, your art is very healing to all of us. It just captivates you, and I think the maybe it's me personally, but I think a lot of other people relate to it because of the you can see nature in it, and it's just you can see the human touch, but you can also see God's touch, and
Hmm.
kind of co-created here. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. What's the next
Yeah.
one, Matt?
I'm
Right now,
just a, I'm just a catalyst. That's all I am. I'm a
well,
catalyst.
the right person, I will say that. This
So
in person is gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful here, but it's so gorgeous in person. The colors are rich, and it's just a sweet, sweet painting. Talk about it.
thank you. Everybody seems to really love this, and um, it's a painting reflective of, I would say, reflective of the part of me. It's called In the Garden of All Knowing, and it's the part of me that wants to be in that place of centeredness and calm and just at peace. And so in the show, I've done a series of figurative pieces, and I've chosen titles for them to represent parts of my life. And so there's even a painting in the show that is of a little girl, and she's playing with orbs, and she's holding an orb in her hand, and then she's got some orbs that are going around her, and it's called the veil of innocence, because even as a child, I was always creating, and not quite the sharpest crayon in the box, but the most creative one.
And
I
I
had a
know
lot go.
the most colorful one as well.
There you
Even
go.
the whites and the pastels. Well,
and
beautiful.
and so I think there's just one slide of this, but there's 4 or 5 paintings that have figures in them that reflect part of my story. So you only get to see one of them. You have to go to the show to see
Uh,
these.
uh, you know,
And then
this
this
one,
is um, this is a whole new concept for me, and I just love it. And I'm going to explore this process even more. This is an entire background of batik resist paper, which is wax resist on my mulberry paper, but it's 2 sheets of paper that were made the size of the canvas. The canvas is 40 inches square, and then I created the moth out of paper too, and it's the Luna moth. And um, this show, like I talked about earlier, has parts to it that I'm remembering and honoring the people that have taught me and shown me so much through my life. And this painting is dedicated to my mother, and it's called My Mother, My Moon. And
mm,
the Luna moth stands for female night energy, and everything about the night is female. And the Luna is the feminine. And my mother was such a beautiful person physically and internally in many ways. And so my mom's name was Winifred Jennings. And so this painting is dedicated to my mom, my
beautiful.
mother, my moon.
Well, and in person, I will say this is absolutely a showstopper. It's you can see here the contrast of the black and white with the moth, the colors of the
Mhm.
moth. Um, it it's gorgeous right
Thank
here,
you.
but in
Thank
person, it's very spiritual,
you.
very
Mhm.
spiritual, which is to say another one of Lisa's spiritual works because you do gorgeous,
kind of
beautiful.
reach in there and
Yeah,
do the spiritual woo-woo stuff.
yeah. Okay, let's see another one.
Mm,
Beautiful. And I know this is a special dedication on this one as well.
yeah. This painting is another Batik Resist. And I just had to do a red painting. I wanted to do red um, because so many people are attracted to red. I had a dear friend pass away this year, and her name's Lynn, and she was definitely different like me. She danced to her own rhythm, and this painting, I think it's called "Live Your Life with Passion and Dance to Your Own Beat." And in a lot of Aboriginal belief systems, the woodpecker is the one that represents dancing to your own beat. And
Mm.
then, of course, the red represents passion. So live life with passion and dance to your own beat. And this is dedicated to my dear friend Lynn, who definitely did live her life like that. And there's two woodpeckers there. So it could be a partnership or it could be best friends, you know?
And Lynn was an artist as well.
Yes, she was a very talented artist in the community. She had she's got sculpture throughout Nashville at TPAC and also in front of the AT&T building. Her name is Lynn Swenson.
And for those of you who do go to TPAC or will come back to TPAC when it reopens, she did that beautiful bronze statue of a little boy holding a glass or crystal orb that was meant to um, insinuate that it was going to drop into a pool of creative thought. She also helped design the water wall and fountain that is in the lobby of Jackson Hall. So this is a beautiful tribute to her. Beautiful.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, very special person.
And this, oh,
So this painting is probably this one of the largest pieces in the show, and it's basically another figurative piece, which is reflective of someplace I would love to just be, just to hang out. And I believe it's called Sitting with Grandfather Tree. And so there's this correlation from my childhood. When we lived in East Aurora, I would go out just outside the back door and I would go over to this big, huge tree and sit on the roots that were all mossy. And it
oh,
was so soft. And I'd sit there and I'd play. And then sometimes I would talk to the tree, and sometimes I'd write little notes and I would put them up in the little hole, like it was like a secret place for me. It was my own little private sanctuary. And so I just, as growing up, it to me it was like I could share my secrets with grandfather tree. And so this is the culmination of me coming home and coming full circle and being at peace is sitting with my grandfather tree. And I have traveled a lot of places in my life. I've been all over the world, and I take pictures of trees wherever I am. And I remember that tree as a little girl. And so this tree also has birds in it, and then all the leaves have been cut out and pasted on singularly. And then there's orbs in there too, which are kind of like those sacred light orbs that we see that come up in photographs or that are just bouncing around. So it's many, many layers of paint, paper, um, that have been put on this painting. And I think it is a 62 by 70-inch painting.
Big format. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, did you have just one grandfather tree, or did you, when you moved around, did you find new grandfather trees?
No, pretty much that was the that tree as a little girl, that was like my most sacred spot. So I would identify like the energy of what grandfather tree would feel like wherever I would go. So, um, you know, I guess people that love trees understand the relationships. So,
Well,
you know,
it's got a very important, it played a
it
very important role.
yeah, it's
Right?
special, and I think a lot of people really relate to tree energy, and it's there's a lot out about trees and scientifically how they're interconnected and how they communicate.
It'd be neat if you could go back to your grandfather tree and reach down in there and pull out all the little notes and things and stuff and just, I mean, it's almost like a time capsule, right?
I wish
Oh, that'd
some
be
squirrel is like ate those.
probably. Matt, I think that was the last one. If not, no, we got another one. Okay. That
Oh,
love this one. I love this one.
okay.
Tell us
So
more birds.
so part of my show will be my sculptures. And I wasn't able to sculpt for this show. So some of these sculptures that are in the show are from people that have collected my work. And this is called, I think I've forgotten her name, Miss Bluebonnet or something. And she has a beautiful heart of chrysocolla. She's got some pigmented papers on her. The birds are carved out of wood. And then she has a steel armature on her head that's holding a nest that I hand wove for her. So
Wow.
it's
Now, what
just,
did
it's
the
fun.
nest out of?
Sorry.
What did you make the nest out of?
Oh, it's twine and woven things, pretty stiff twine that I've glued and then woven things into it too.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And what is the size of that piece?
I'm thinking it's probably about maybe 2.5 feet tall. It sits on top of somebody's sideboard. So it's a I guess I don't know what you call it, a sitting piece, a shelf piece.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Matt, if we have one more, let me know. That might have been it. Okay. So we still have some questions here for you. We're not going to let you go. Um,
Oh,
so in addition to these beautiful pieces that you've created for the show, um, which starts January 27th and runs through April 18th,
correct.
and people can buy these pieces if they want to, but you've also created something else at and you've created a partnership, and it's all about birds
Mhm,
and
mhm.
giving back. So tell us about your birds.
Sure. I've got some right here with me that I can show everybody while we're online. I just happen to have these guys here.
Those aren't mine, are they?
No.
Look at those. They might become mine.
So these birds, these birds are part of a project called the Community Bird Project. And they're all going to be mounted on this beautiful vine. It's a circular vine. Yeah, Kathleen has hers right there.
This is a gift that you gave to me to give to someone whose husband's dealing with Alzheimer's. So this is
Yeah, yeah. So the this thought came to me. I want to dedicate something back to Anton. And the Community Bird Project is done in his memory. And it's going to be, these birds will be displayed on a beautiful round circular vine. I would try and hold it up, but I'd look silly trying to hold it up in front of the camera. And then it will have some of these other found vines coming off of it. There will be over 60 birds that are part of this project, Community Bird Project. The birds were made by many of my friends, people from all walks of life. They would come here to the studio during COVID with a mask on, or we would create outdoors even. And they would put together these birds with paper and wrap them with masking tape and then put paper mache on the outside, which makes them hard. And they feel solid. And then they were covered in my handmade papers.
Gorgeous.
And then they have, of course, feet on them. And so people will be able to donate to Abe's Garden. Abe's Garden is a place where people that have Alzheimer's and dementia can go and live. And Abe's Garden has dedicated their facility to the utmost and the highest way of caring for the people that come and stay, because each part of Abe's Garden deals with art, music, right? What was the other? Oh, gardening or something. And they have done light studies, and they have just made it the most beautiful atmosphere for people to come and live there that have Alzheimer's. And Anton was able to go and do part of their adult daycare program on a scholarship. And so this is how I want to give forward is these birds will be auctioned off, and you can purchase one of the birds, and the money will go towards Abe's Garden as a gift so that it can go back in the scholarship fund or be used to help people that with Alzheimer's that are staying there.
So if someone were, in order to do this, you would need to go to the Customs House Museum and Cultural Center during the time of your show, which again is January 27th through April 18th. Pick out a bird, and you're asking for a minimal donation. They would pay that donation and some more if they really were so moved to help support this cause.
Yeah, if you want a big bird.
Well, that's beautiful. That's a big one. So they can pick out their bird and donate from their purse and their heart, and go home with a piece of art created by Lisa in some of her materials, like her papers, and know that it was a group effort that you brought to life. So a lot of hands have touched these birds with a lot of love and a lot of caring, and created the character that will then someone can take it home and find a place in their home for a small piece of gorgeous art. It's a lovely, lovely gesture. And I know that my friend is, especially knowing the backstory, is going to love her. It'll go in the mail to her.
I love it.
Well, we're over an hour here now, but I just want to ask a couple of questions. What do you think it takes to be an artist? I mean, it's not just talent. You got to have it, but what does it take? I want to be an artist. What is it going to take?
That's like a $64,000 question. I think it takes perseverance. It takes thick skin that you gain over time. It takes stamina. it takes a drive. You have to be kind of a driven person because it's something that you do by yourself, unless you have helpers or things. It's truly something that you have to dedicate a lot of time to. Some artists gain notoriety right away. Sometimes you will never gain it. So you do art because you're called to do it, because you love to do it. And that's the story that you have to remember at the end of the day when things are hard. There are very hard times and there are very easy times. And I can say that from firsthand experience. I am not a trust fund baby. So, this is truly, I'm living the life of what it's like to live as an artist that makes solely my living as an artist. So it's a dedication, like a doctor would be dedicated or a nun would be dedicated. Sometimes I call myself the art nun.
That's not a
Right.
bad. But so
Right.
you had certainly a lot of inspiration, and your mother got you ingrained with nature. Plus, you saw her in her art and how she worked and moved. And then Lynn has been someone who has influenced and been meaningful to you. And of course, your beloved Anton, who um, was a mentor. Do you feel that if you're going to succeed in being an artist, that most artists need those types of touch points and mentoring to help them? I mean, I mean, you are an example of somebody who's extremely talented. Did you get to where you are now because of them, or could you have gotten there anyway? Or how important is mentoring?
I think that's a very good question. And it's something that um, I'll let you know that I feel like I was so blessed to have had these people in my life. And if you believe in spirit, that was aligned for that, for me to carry on, because spirit knew my heart from young, from when I was a child. I also feel that people that are truly gifted can come out of such diversity and such hard situations where they are truly gifted in spirit, and they don't have these touchstones. I think that anyone can do what their heart desires. It's just of the will. It's the will that's been planted within them. It takes a strong will to pursue your dreams. And I think we've all witnessed that. And some of people that we really recognize as heroes in our life, they've come from very hard backgrounds and achieved great things. And sometimes that creates a stronger passion in a person. So I don't think I answered that point blank, but I think there's, different ways that you can achieve it.
And I think part of it is the communing aspect of through mentoring and people that inspire and influence you. It just adds energy to the momentum that you need to become and sustain being an artist.
Yeah. How I see and feel things is that I'm a teaching artist, whereas some artists are just full-time artists and they don't teach. When I teach, I learn. When I learn, I give. That's a Maya Angelou type statement. When I receive, I give. It's just it's a way for things to continue on, and I definitely believe in sharing. You know, because it's not all mine.
It's a great way to look at that.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, you've got to tell us. I know you've got to be exhausted because this is a huge
You
show.
think?
No, you're putting in as part of your exhibit, but also 60 plus birds. That's a lot. But
Yeah.
what are you going to do? It's now 2021, and your show is being installed right now. So, what is Lisa concentrating on artistically for this coming year?
The big scope of the picture is I'm a working artist. So I literally maybe took a week off and I'm right back at it. I'm offering courses to teach. I'm teaching some wonderful things that I've always wanted to share, and it's a series of outdoor classes. One will be held this next Thursday. It's called A Winter Wander, and it's about going out into one of the state parks near where I live and being up close and personal and quiet with nature to study the color palettes. And so Matt has been kind enough to put my website up there with, and you can go and you can look at the class offerings. I'll be teaching at Art and Soul, which is a local facility, a wonderful place where people can go and experience art with soul and heart. It's a very safe place to go and just learn anything that you like. I'm offering classes there next month. I'm going to be sending out some new presentations to different galleries, hopefully outside the state of Tennessee. And I pretty much focused on my show. And then because of COVID and other things, it trumped. Oh my goodness.
You said it. You said
Whoa. It flew me, it threw me for a loop. And so I'm pretty much starting from scratch. So my main approach to this next year is teaching and creating more beautiful art, and just kind of getting used to being on my own.
well,
That's my plan, Stan.
I'm definitely going to check out your in studio sessions because my husband Tim and I, when we were over there, we saw your beautiful paper making, or the papers that you made, and they're just stunning. And that's something that we would be interested in. And I know just a little bit about paper making, almost limited to the fact that you might need a blender. So I haven't thrown my old blender out. So
Believe me, you won't need a blender to create, but I'm going to be teaching a pigmenting class in February. So you can go to my website and
check it out.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us a sneak preview of Coming Home, your gorgeous art in so many different formats, incorporating nature, and that it's not hollow art; it's filled with love and a connection to nature. So, thank you so very much. Uh,
Thank you. Thank
being
you.
And we appreciate all of you tuning in to Live from the View. We are back and running for 2021. And next week, we've got another encore presentation. Brian Hull was here last year, and he did one on the artistry of puppetry. And so
Oh, wow.
Thursday, he's going to do a different show, but also on puppetry. So we'll be back with that, with more art always. And with that, I will say thank you and good night to everyone. We appreciate
Thank
you all
you.
tuning in. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everybody.